Welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is Nemo Kevin Jank.
I am here, and just to let you guys get a peek behind the curtain, before the show, I was talking to Mike Dell, and I said, "Do you speak in my language?" And he just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich.
All right, it's a very awkward, lengthy reference to an 80s Men at Work, right?
Yeah, Men at Work.
Australian band, because today's issue that we're doing, tell the kids it takes place in Australia. Tell the kids what we're doing.
We're going to be doing Uncanny X-Men number 251, kind of the tail end of the Australian saga that the X-Men had gone through in the late 80s there.
Yeah, this is from 1989, just getting in here under the wire, and it features the Reavers.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them here in a second. And the creators are Chris Claremont and Marc Silvestri. So this was we'll talk all about this, because this was right towards the tail end of me, reading the X-Men. But before we get started,
love affair,
let's remind everyone that if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I think I saw we're up to 297 subscribers.
Well,
we picked up a few more.
Oh.
And I got to tell you, Vampirella is going. She is getting some views. So I think the lesson here is put a smoking hot lady in a bikini in the thumbnail, and the views go up. So,
yep. I can see the covers, the top 11 Vampirella covers doing good, but once they realize nothing happens in the issue, I don't know if they're going to come back.
The top 11 Vampire colors did nothing. Like 4 people looked at it. But the episode proper, good rating so far. So,
good.
Also, remind everybody, I have a book out there called Monkey Flip about a chimp detective. You'll love it.
Yep.
All right, so Uncanny X-Men 251, like you mentioned, this is towards the tail end of their Australian adventures down there. Now, let's remind everybody how the X-Men ended up in Australia. Because for my recollection, Jank, it started with Fall of the Mutants, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, well, you explain it for the kids.
So Fall of the Mutants was a big thing where they were down in Dallas, I believe, and this guy called the Adversary had come popping up, who was like an old enemy of Forge. Forge had done some kind of spell back in like Vietnam or whatever, and he was
that's right.
sacrificed a bunch of soldiers or something. I don't know. But this is like a Native American spirit, basically. They kept coming back, and he's like the god of chaos or something like that. So in order to defeat the Adversary, Forge had to do that spell again and like sacrifice the X-Men's lives, basically, to defeat this thing. But luckily for them, that didn't last very long, because there was some goddess named Roma there who was like, "Oh, hey, you X-Men are good guys. You sacrificed your lives. I'm going to bring you back to life and make you invisible to all forms of surveillance technology, like electronic surveillance."
Yeah, it was a very bizarre choice.
Yeah.
I did not
do anything you want. Like, you can have new lives, whatever you want. And they're just like, I guess we'll just tell everyone we died, and, like, we can protect people better by pretending we're dead somehow. I don't know how that works, but
we can shoplift from
yeah,
surveillance cameras.
And Kitty that are in like comas when they wake up. No. Let them think we're dead.
Yeah, so the world thinks the X-Men are dead. And the X-Men we're dealing with here, if I recall, it's like Wolverine, Storm, Dazzler, Rogue, Havoc, right? Wasn't Havoc in there?
Sure was.
You said Psylocke. Is there anyone else? Oh, Colossus.
Yep.
And I think that might be it, right?
And Longshot.
Oh, yeah, Longshot. All right. So, yeah, they go, this lady, Roma, saves their lives, and she puts them down in Australia. Oh, no. Roma told them that there was an illegal group of criminals called the Reavers operating out of Australia, right?
Yeah, I think they went into Asia somewhere and kidnapped some woman, and the X-Men kind of went after her to, follow the trail back to their town that they were operating in out of Australia.
Yeah, they're like in the Australian outback.
Yeah.
there's an Aborigine fella who's a mutant called Gateway, and he spins his bull roarer. Is that what that's called, right?
Yeah, you got.
He spins it around, and it opens up portals where he would, like the Reavers were basically holding him hostage, and it would teleport them anywhere in the world, and so they could rob different places. And they were a bunch of looters, a bunch of filthy looters.
Yep. Yeah, just bad criminals.
Yep.
It's all been kind of like cyborged out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because didn't they have like treads on or like the tires or something? I don't know. Some of them.
It's just like, he's just a torso on top of some tank treads.
Yes, that's right. Well, I think that guy's in here, right? Is he still around?
Yeah.
All right, so the X-Men defeated them and took over their town, basically.
Yeah. Like, they say, like, idea. They'll never come back looking for vengeance, for sure.
Yeah, you kids scat, we're taking your town. So the X-Men start operating out of this outback town in Australia, and it's like a ghost town situation. And then they use Gateway to teleport them all over the world. And that's how Wolverine could always get to Mandrapore so quick for his solo Wolverine adventures, because he had Gateway spinning the bull. So,
that's like the best kind of Uber. Like, you could go to Mandapore, get drunk, and then have this guy just come pick you up.
This whole thing's just ridiculous. All right, so now when they're down in Australia, that's how they meet Jubilee, right? Don't they meet her down there?
Yeah, well, I guess technically, I think that was about a couple issues before this. I think
244, I think is what.
Yeah, 244. The X-Women had gone, they had Gateway, like, teleport them to Los Angeles, I believe.
Oh, my bad. Or, yeah.
They wanted to go to the mall.
At a shopping, yes. Wasn't that did Rob Liefeld draw that issue?
I don't think so.
He drew one of those issues in this area, but
yeah, he might have done the next one where the men were going somewhere. I think he may have at least done the cover.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so they met Jubilee at a shopping mall, right? And I was thinking that took place in Australia.
Trouble with cops, and like she was shoplifting or something, and she just like, oh, these guys are teleporting out of here. I'm gonna get in with them. So she could just kind of jump through the portal, and then didn't want to like reveal herself. So she's just kind of been lurking around this little town because she doesn't know how to get back home. Or
yeah, and Wolverine was off on his own. He was in Mandrapore having adventures. So because otherwise, he'd smell it.
Yep.
So yeah, she's sneaking around. No one knows she's there. And then, there's other questions I'll have for you as we get into this story.
Starting in number 247, I think, it's kind of the beginning of the end for the Australian thing, when Rogue went through the Siege Perilous when she was fighting Mastermind and Nimrod, or Master Mold and Nimrod.
Okay, and explain what the Siege Perilous is for the people.
Yeah. The Siege Perilous, I guess, is something that Roma gave them. It's like a jewel that opens up another gateway, kind of like Gateway does, but it's different. And basically it'll give you a brand new life. It'll like kind of take you in and judge you, and you'll pop out in a new life based off of what it's found on of your existence. And so Rogue was fighting this giant robot, and it was getting sucked through, but it wasn't quite going fast enough, so she kind of flew into it, into the portal with it to make sure it got sucked in and seemingly be destroyed, but later would come back as Bastion.
Yes, we talked about that some months back when we were doing the Nimrod issue of the X-Men. So what happened to Rogue when she went through there?
Well, we wouldn't find out, I think, until like 269. Like, she's gone for a good while.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think she kind of just pops up. The one thing that really happens, I think she's a little bit of amnesia, like most of the people who end up going through the Siege Perilous have. But the Carol Danvers personality that had been stuck inside of her ever since she, held on to her too long, like, I think that kind of got expunged and like became its own like weird entity that was like it looked like a decayed version of Carol Danvers that Magneto then killed. So basically, she was free of those memories for, from that point forward, instead of having to with her.
I do kind of remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but she still had her strength and stuff from Carol Danvers, right?
Yeah. Yep. Still got the powers, but none of the personality. So that was the best of all worlds, really.
But so she went through there though, and she still was Rogue, basically.
Yep. Yeah, because I think she remember everything when she first got, her But I think she was like that issue picks up. She's just living somewhere. She's got like an apartment or something.
Because sometimes when people go through that siege perilous, they change dramatically.
Yes. Well,
Like
I mean,
become.
yes.
Okay.
That was that's the Psylocke thing was for different reasons. That was actually not the Siege Perilous.
Oh,
Uh,
I always thought it was the siege perilous.
yeah, for some reason it seems to happen because of that. But basically, she just got deposited somewhere in Japan, and this Japanese gang leader was like, "Hey, there's this telepath. What can I do with her?" And he called Spiral, and Spiral basically was like, "Oh, your powers to heal your assassin girlfriend." But instead of healing her, she kind of like swapped their bodies. So she put Psylocke's brain into this assassin's body and the assassin's brain into Psylocke's old body.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Because Psylocke, she started out as a British lady with like purple hair, Betsy Braddock. And then she became an Asian lady who's a ninja. And I always just thought she went through the Siege Perilous and that's what happened. So look, you taught me something new. How about that?
Although I think the worst, I feel like Havoc got it the worst because I think he goes through the Siege Perilous and then he winds up like a guard in Genosha, like where he's like brainwashed. The Genosha
working minimum wage federal job. Yeah, that's not good. What happened to Colossus?
He, I believe, becomes like an artist. Like he kind of forgets who he is. He becomes like Peter Nicholas or something, like a guy doing art, and he kind of starts getting some notoriety, I guess, for that.
Okay, this kind of makes sense. Dazzler.
Dazzler, I feel like there was an issue probably around 260 where she was kind of back, but people knew who she was. Like she, again, kind of had amnesia, but people knew, oh, you're Dazzler, and they were kind of trying to get her back up to speed. And she had like a soccer guy who was coming after her, trying to shoot her. And then I think she disappeared for the longest time. And then like all of a sudden, like the next time we see her, she's in Mojo World and her and Longshot are like married and she's pregnant. It's like, oh, okay.
All right. You said she had a stalker guy after her, right?
Yeah.
I thought you said she had a soccer guy after her. Like a big fan of the football.
Yep.
So that's a little weird. But, all right. So that's, well, again, there's a scene of them going through the Siege Perilous in this issue. So we'll get to that later. But anyway, the Reavers reformed though.
248 was kind of, that was the continuation where basically Longshot left the team because he was like, I don't know who I am. Like I don't have most of my memories. I'm going to go try to figure out, what I'm missing. And then there was a big explosion when they were fighting Nanny and Havoc seemingly killed Storm.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about because I don't have any recollection of that. They mentioned it in this issue. And so how did he seemingly do it and not actually do it?
That is a good question, because basically, like, she is, like, Nanny had this big giant spaceship type thing.
I guess we should explain who Nanny is. Oh, man. Comic book history is so convoluted.
X-Men were very, convoluted at this time. There's a lot of things going on.
I remember Nanny from X Factor.
Yeah. Yep. And she always had it, like, she had a special, affinity for children, especially, like, mutant children. So I don't even know why she was there, what she was after in the X-Men's town there, but for some reason, like, Storm was all caught up in these, tentacles coming out of her ship, and Havoc had been, like, brainwashed or something, and then he kind of was coming out of it, and he just thought, like, oh, Storm's in trouble, and, like, he fired off his, plasma blast at the ship, and, like, blew it up, but then so they thought, like, oh, she died because then her body was laying there. Like there was a body, like, laying there in the ashes of the ship. But apparently that was not the real Storm. Like, Nanny had created a duplicate or something that she could be like, oh, see, Storm's dead. But really, she had taken Storm and reverted her to a teenager.
Oh, shoot. I remember this. That's why on the cover of that first appearance of Gambit, he's with a little Storm.
Yep. Yeah, she's back to being like 11 years old, and then that's when she meets Gambit.
So how does she get aged up again?
I think that happened in Extinction Agenda when she got captured by the Genosian, guards and turned into a mutate. And I guess as part of that, they're like, oh, we can't have this child labor. That's where we draw the line. Slaves is one thing. But child labor, they got laws against that.
That's when you're like 35-ish.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's something. All right. Well, you're explaining a lot to me, Jake. Thank God you're here because I didn't do all this research. So, all right, but then at some point the Reavers reform. Like that original team's gone, but they who's the fella Pierce from the Hellfire Club?
Yeah. Former White Queen or not White Queen.
White King. Yeah. Is it Damian Pierce, right? Damian? Donald, shoot. All right, Donald Pierce. Damian Pierce.
Donald Draper.
So, yeah, so he reforms the Reavers because the Hellfire Club, that's with Emma Frost and Celine and Sebastian Shaw and Donald Pierce and Leland, right? The chubby guy.
Yeah, Leland, everyone's favorite.
Well, I did like that guy. So, and Wolverine once hacked him with his claws, and he cut off because he was always like half a robot, right? Because I remember
I think
Wolverine cut his arm off or something. Yeah,
he was the one. He's a weird member for the inner circle of the Hellfire Club because he hates mutants. And they're pretty much all mutants, so he's like the one human, except he's part robot. Like he's got cyborg parts, so yeah.
So
that relationship didn't work very well. Didn't last long.
So he wants to get revenge on Wolverine and the X-Men, and he reforms the Reavers. And there are like 3 original members of the Reavers, like you mentioned, the guy with the treads and whatnot.
He claims at least to have created those Reavers in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I read as well. Yeah. Like he created the original Reavers. Like he was like that guy who made all those boy bands back in the day. And
yeah, exactly.
Also,
stuff I got to be involved.
Also part of this new Reavers or Reavers 2.0, we got some former Hellfire Club mercenaries who Wolverine had gutted, and now
during the Phoenix Saga. Yeah,
that's right, way back then. And now they're part robots. And then we have my beloved Lady Deathstrike is in there as well.
Yeah, she's kind of the odd person out a little bit, where like
she does not fit at all.
She was not created by Donald Pierce, had nothing to do with him, but she's like, oh, you're going after Wolverine. I'm in.
Yeah, she just wants to get revenge on Wolverine. So, okay, I think that's all the background we need for this. I guess I should say, I think the Reavers' first appearance was Uncanny X-Men 228, and that's the original Reavers team that were the looters. 229 in 1988. That's what it was. And Chris Claremont and Marc Silvestri created them. So I think that's all the background we need for this issue. And, the creators, of course, Chris Claremont, we've talked about him numerous times on the show. He's Mr. X-Men. He did it all. And, the artist, Marc Silvestri, I don't know if we've ever talked about him. So real quickly, born in Palm Beach, Florida in 1958, started out working for DC and First Comics. He guest penciled issue 119 of Master of Kung Fu for Marvel in 1982. And he was the artist on Uncanny X-Men from 1987 to 1990, which spanned from issues 218 to 261. So he didn't do every issue, but he did the majority of issues. Is that right? Yeah. Then he did 2 years on Wolverine.
Yeah, that's right.
Then in 1992, he was one of the original 7 artists who formed Image Comics. And his stuff was published under the Top Cow brand, which produced Cyberforce, Codename Strike Force, Witchblade, The Darkness, Inferno, Hellbound, and Fathom.
Yeah. I remember doing The Darkness. It always looked really cool on there. I never read any of it, but it looked cool.
Yeah. He briefly left Image in 1996, but he returned after Rob Liefeld left. So I think that tells you.
Yeah. Liefeld not popular over there. He fucked a lot of people over.
Now, you might know some of this, but he briefly returned to the X-Men in 2004, working with Grant Morrison. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, that was kind of the end of Grant Morrison's run, where it was kind of a story set in the future. And that was by far the best artwork that the Grant Morrison era ever had. It wasn't the Frank Quitely weird raisin people, and it wasn't any like Eagle or 40 stuff. It just looked like complete ass. So
I don't know that second guy at all, but that Quilty fella, he had an interesting take on things.
Yeah.
Some of it was cool. Silvestri, I was a big fan. When I was a kid, I loved it. He also did a couple issues of the X-Men Avengers limited series back then, like that 4-issue thing.
Yeah.
And I know he did some Spider-Man stuff too. We did with Mike L on that Spider Cast thing he did I remember doing an issue on there. I think it was this. So it's
Doing on
spectacular.
Web
Yeah,
or
it was
something?
Web. Yeah, Web. Well, whatever the one was where Peter Parker went out of New York and had adventures. Was that Web?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah.
early days of Web. They're like, I don't know, we'll just try things, see what happens.
But I'm a big fan of Silvestri's work, and I loved his whole run on here. And because remember early in his run, there was the Marauders came back, and there's like a 2 or 3 issue thing with the Marauders.
Yep.
And yeah, so all right, let's look at the cover, Jank.
Okay, pretty classic cover. Without spoiling too much, it was, there's definitely references to it in the Wolverine and Deadpool movie that just came out this year. So it's very cool. They got the corner box up there. It says Marvel, and we got a shot of Colossus, Psylocke, Havoc, and Wolverine. Interesting choice.
That's Art Adams, by the way, too. The art there.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Pretty awesome.
They're all in kind of a lime green color. And then this is the Uncanny X-Men, the classic logo there. Now on sale twice a month. Interesting.
Yeah, that was a wild time. Twice a month.
Yeah, they just had so much story. They're like, yep, we got to keep cranking this out.
That is crazy to think about, but man.
There have been times in recent years when I remember they would try that, or like the first month, they would keep relaunching things, and like the first month, it'd be like 3 times a month. It's like, this is ridiculous. No one wants this.
Yeah, because if I recall correctly, I don't know if it started in the summer, but because I used to have a subscription, I used to get the X-Men sent to me in the mail.
Yeah. 90s.
It was always great. They come folded. I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you, mailman. I always wanted my big crease down the cover of my book. Thank you. But yeah, they're popping up, every other week. And I was like, oh, this is pretty great.
Yeah.
So. All right. Yeah. But getting back to the cover.
Yeah. So then we got a purple background. And Wolverine has been nailed up to a giant X, like a wooden X there in the desert. And he's completely shirtless. He's got kind of wearing ripped pants and still got his boots on, it looks like. He's got the wingtips going. And then he's just this is all happening on top of a pile of skulls, like charred looking pink skulls. And Wolverine himself is all like in lime green, kind of like the shot they have up in the corner box. So it's got that kind of Joker, Green Goblin, Hulk kind of color scheme of the purple and the lime green. It's very cool looking.
Yeah, it's a great cover, classic cover. It's all purples, pinks, black, and green, and there's vultures flying above his head, and it's raining as well, and there's mist at the bottom. Just a great cover. And we should also mention Silvestri, during his run, his inker was always Dan Green. And
yeah,
they worked very, very well together. So good times. Yeah, it's an iconic X-Men cover, So
yeah, one of the greats.
All right, so we open it up. We get a big splash page of Wolverine there. And it's just his face, and his arms are, suspended above his head, and he's sweating and bleeding. And the title is called Fever Dream, starring the last of the Uncanny X-Men. He's the last one left.
Yeah.
Everyone else is gone.
And ship.
And, he's just tied up there to that big X under the sweltering Australian sun. And, at this point, he's tied with chains. Around his wrists and ankles. And in comes Donald Pierce, and he grabs him by the hair, and he says, good morning, Wolverine. Comfy? And Wolverine is sweating up a storm. And what's Pierce telling him here? Just, you're a jerk, and I hate you? That's pretty much it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
He's trying to get him to look at him, and he starts pulling out Wolverine's hair. He's like, oh, maybe I'll slice away your eyelids. We'll see if they grow back. And he's like, yeah, they'll grow back.
He said, we'll see if your healing factor can prevent you from going blind. And probably would.
Yeah, I think it would. What good is the healing factor if it doesn't do that? So he's like, oh, here's all my buddies. They've all felt your claws over the years, and they're not too happy about it. And but now they're all cyborgs. I like the one cyborg that doesn't even look like a cyborg at all, but he's always combing his hair.
Pretty boy.
Yeah, Pretty Boy.
He's one of the Reavers. Yeah, they introduce each one of them here. Lady Deathstrike, Pretty Boy, Bonebreaker, and Skullbuster were the original Reavers.
Mm-hmm.
And who were the Macon and Reese and Cole.
Yeah.
For the Hellfire Club guys. So
yeah, they kind of look the most generic. They just kind of have this weird like headgear going on.
Yeah, that is weird. They got little bubbles on their heads.
Yeah.
And again, Lady Deathstrike does not fit with his crew at all. I don't know. She's just standing there in her normal.
Yeah, she's got got her arms crossed. She's like, I don't want to be with these jerks. I'll just kill Wolverine already.
So then Wolverine whimpers, "I'm impressed," and Pierce smacks him, and he gets really angry. And he's like, "Yeah, do it, Pierce. I bet you got a good Pierce imitation. Can you read Pierce?"
You dare mock me?
yeah, keep it going for the next two panels.
Very good, Wolverine. Oh, very good. You angered me, made me lose my temper, lose control. This round to you, then. Enjoy the taste of victory, little man. You have my word. So Wolverine barely said anything, but he's like, "Oh yeah, fucking, I give you this round."
There's a little bit more at the bottom though.
It'll be your last.
Yeah, it'll be your last. And then we get a close up of Wolverine sweating and bleeding, and he says, "Wanna bet?" Real quiet, But yeah,
Wolverine's got a little smile. He's like, "Yeah, this guy's a chump."
Sure. As an outside observer, I'm not sure I could say Wolverine won that exchange.
No. Well, he did say, "I'm impressed," and then Tom Pierce is like, "Oh, I've been hoisted on my own petard."
You beat me this time, Wolverine. He's still strapped to a cross and you're beating the hell out of him. Pretty sure you won.
That plan of cutting your eyelids off, it seems like I could easily win this, but nope. I'm just so angry.
I'm angry. So
rope shower.
So now we cut, and we just see Wolverine still standing out there in the sun, baking away. And the Reavers are kicking. It's Macon, Reese, and Cole. Oh, and one of the old school Reavers is back there too. Oh, I was going to say what's her name, but we don't have to ask because they always address each other by their names.
Yep.
That's always a sign of good dialogue.
These are all going to be toys soon. You got to make sure people know the names. Yes, toys. Local Toys R Us.
But they're looking. One guy's sensors picked up that there's someone in the town, and the other guy's making fun of him, like, "You're nuts," or he just thought he heard something or saw something because they're like, "Our sensors are showing nothing," And their name. Yeah, how come their sensors weren't picking up Jubilee then?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Because at first I was like, "Oh, she went through the sea. She's not,
Does not say all the mutants. She didn't go through the siege. She went through
exactly right." So, and I was like, "Well, maybe, but she's a mutant." I was like, "Maybe they're only detects mutants," but yeah, she is a mutant. So, yeah, I don't know why maybe they just got really bad sensors.
Yeah, Donald Pierce really skimped on that. He was like, I ran out of money at the end.
But we see Jubilee hiding in an air duct, and she pops out, and wow, is her internal monologue terrible. It is so bad. It's all right. Who the heck are these guys? Where'd they come from? What do they want? It's like someone says, "Hey, Chris Claremont, these are the points we want to get across. Can you write it?" And he goes, "All right, I'll just write it exactly like that." let's just write those three questions. That bald Mad Maxoid with the shades, he's more machine than person. Utterly gross. Don't like the way they laugh.
Yeah.
Okay. And then she says, "That's one of the Xmen in the street. No sign of any of his pals. Or that old geek Gateway. Where'd everybody go? What's happening?" Like, you don't want to be so on the nose is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's go for some subtlety here.
That's never been Chris Claremont's bailiwick, I would say.
Now, there's also a problem here in this next panel. We see Wolverine, his head down, his eyes in shadow, and just sweating profusely.
Mm-hmm.
The sweat is just pouring off him. So then when we read the narration, The first one says, it's too hot to sweat. Perspiration evaporates before it really has time to form. What I see of my skin starting to look as cracked and blistered as the ground. Going to get a lot worse.
He's very wet in the picture.
Yeah, sweat is pouring off his face. But,
yeah.
Could use an editor there to go over that one.
They should have just colored it red, be like, yeah, it's his blood, but yeah, maybe they couldn't.
Maybe that is, you know what, maybe that is what happened. Like it was just a coloring mishap.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, so Wolverine starts having his fever dream. This is where it all kicks off.
Yeah.
First person he sees, Gateway.
In a computer.
Yeah, he's just in there in his little underpants. And he's spinning the board. And then the X-Men appear behind him. Rogue, Psylocke, Longshot, Colossus, Dazzler, Storm, Havoc, and Wolverine. Wait, what?
What?
He thinks they're coming to rescue him, but how can they come rescue him? Wait, I can't be there. I'm over here. So then Rogue and Longshot disappear and Wolverine disappears, symbolizing how Rogue went through the Siege Perilous and Longshot with the team. And Wolverine's tied to an X. And then we see Havoc shooting Storm in the back.
Yeah.
Just roasting her. And see, this is I don't remember this at all, like, happening, so I'm glad you explained it to me with Nanny and all that other stuff.
I think that was the first issue of X-Men that Jim Lee drew, was 248.
Do you remember what the cover looked like?
It's kind of purple, and I think it's basically like Colossus is there with like Havoc, and they see Storm's dead body, and Colossus is like, Havoc, you killed Storm, what the hell?
Okay, it's not ringing any bells. All right, so Wolverine's just like trying to figure out what's happening, and he sees Psylocke walking off, and he sees like Psylocke, or he's like, another Psylocke, what is going on? And she says, wrong again, yeah, the one and only. Look at me, Wolverine. And she's half robot now. Well, she's actually mostly robot. I don't know. And she's like, see what the Reavers have done? And so then what happens to Psylocke here?
She kind of starts turning into Lady Deathstrike a little bit because she's got her own claws coming out of her fingers, just like Lady Deathstrike. And he's like my claws? Maybe not so macho stylish as yours, but I'll bet they cut as deep. And this is a weird thing where she's like cutting Gateway.
Yeah, just slices his throat, murders him. And,
now it's just fever dreams, just murdering each other. I don't know.
And then she just starts cutting herself from her face down through her chest. And Wolverine's like, Psylocke, what are you doing? And she rips off her skin. And who's the real fever dream person? No.
Who can it be now? It's old Sabretooth. Yeah. Sabretooth is back in his terrible old costume. I don't like it.
Yeah, the old orange bodysuit with a little fur on the chest and around the wrists and everything. Yeah. Yes, it's old buddy Sabretooth. And he's just like, I hate you, you know? I hate you, Wolverine. And
look better, boy. Me, though, I feel great. Bet you're confused, eh? After all, Sabretooth's supposed to be dead, right? Yeah, like that ever works.
Yeah, everyone's supposed to be dead. But he cuts Wolverine's chest with his pinky finger and licks the blood. And he says, you're pretty dumb. You got caught so easy by these Reavers people. And you must be getting old. And now we get like a flashback. We see how Wolverine got caught. He drove back into town.
Yeah, because Gateway didn't come this time, so he's like, oh, that's kind of weird.
And as soon as he walks in the saloon, he gets blasted outside of it. He pops his claws, and we see Donald Pierce. But since all these people have fought Wolverine before, you know, all the Reavers, they know what to do. And because them claws are only good if you can like get close enough to use them. So they use a bunch of like harpoons and spear them and keep them at a distance.
I mean, unless they're made of adamantium, I feel like you could just easily cut through them. And
then they just beat them with sticks. That's what they only do. Like
that's Wolverine's weakness all along.
Beat him with sticks. And they knock him unconscious. And they drag him up to the X. They strap him in. And they show he's getting whipped or whatever. And he's sweating. And then next thing you know, Sabretooth, He has that red mask on his face. That who was this guy? His teacher?
Ogun.
Ogun?
From the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine limited series.
Yeah, we never did that on the show, that limited series. And this guy was an old martial arts expert who taught Logan, a bunch of stuff. And then he was trying to steal the soul of Kitty Pryde, right?
Yeah, like he kind of like jump bodies or like control people's minds type of thing. So yeah, he was trying to take over Kitty Pryde. So Wolverine had to kill him.
Yeah. So now he's talking to him a while. And then he takes out a samurai sword and he cuts away Wolverine's chains and he falls off the X. And now the mask falls off and of Ogun or whatever, and it's Kitty Pryde, old Shadow Cat.
Yeah.
And she's being all, it's his good pal, Shadow Cat. So it's like she's trying to save him. She's walking him away from the X to a top of a mountain where they always landed with Gateway. And she says, here's what happened to the X-Men, And basically,
I gotta warn him, they ambush the Reavers. And she's like, no, this already happened, dumbass. Like,
yeah, this is a Ghost of Christmas Past situation. You can't do anything here. And so basically it plays out the way, I guess they just had an adventure in the Savage Land. And
Zaladane.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Not exactly. I don't know if that's how you wanted to do issue number 250. Like it's a big number, but they're like, yeah, we'll fight Zaladane, Polaris' possible other sister.
So the only ones who return from that adventure there are Havoc, Colossus, Dazzler, and Psylocke. Yep. And Psylocke senses that the Reavers are there because, she's telepath and all that. And she knows the team's really understaffed and worn down. And she's like, oh, shoot, what are we going to do? But she doesn't tell anyone else this. She's keeping it to herself. So basically what happens? Because Havoc's saying we should just quit and go our own ways anyway. This team's dead. This team's done. and
even Wolverine doesn't want to be here. Like he went off drinking. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I could have a security guard job somewhere. What are we even doing here? So, and then we see the Reavers are starting to make their way up the mountain because they noticed the commotion and they're going to ambush.
They're coming down. We better go up there and get them.
Yeah.
Psylocke's getting nervous. So she starts kind of using her powers on them to mess with their minds and make them more pliable into her plan of going into the Siege Perilous so that they can all get new lives. Although really this doesn't seem necessary because Gateway's right there. Like you could just have him send you somewhere else. Like, I don't know. You don't need to
that is true.
Have him give a whole new life. You could just have him teleport you to like New York.
Or just like 300 yards down the street. That's a very good point. And also, like, she convinces Colossus to go through the Siege Perilous, and they say a heartfelt goodbye. But the way it's drawn, it looks like she goes through the Siege Perilous too. Like you see her cape going in there and disappearing. But she does not. She's still there. And then she gets Dazzler to go through. And then she really uses her powers and her seductive wiles to get Havoc to get through. She kisses him and pushes him through the Siege Perilous. And then the Reavers finally show up. She says, too late. I already killed everybody. See ya. Bye. And she pops through the Siege Perilous. Yeah, the Siege Perilous, it's like this red ruby brooch kind of thing. And it grows real big into like a doorway. And then it shrinks back down to a brooch.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I guess it must be, I don't know, magic allows it to only be used by them and not the Reavers immediately afterwards. Like, I don't know.
Well, I don't think the Reavers wanted to use it, They're like, what the hell is this thing? They didn't know what was going on. Yeah. Maybe maybe there's like a button you got to push and they couldn't find it. Like, I don't know how
your code.
Yeah.
696969.
So Wolverine, he's like, no, she did this. Psylocke used her telepathy to trick the others through the crystal. And now, who's that shadow exactly? Because that's not Kitty Pryde's face,
Oh, no, it's not. Someone blonde, but...
Oh, I guess it's back to Sabretooth, maybe. Gold star for you, Bunky. So I guess maybe that's Sabretooth talking.
Sabretooth also had yellow eyes, and yeah.
Because then Wolverine says, Kitty, your voice, the Brood Queen. He announced the Brood Queen.
Yeah.
And
Wolverine enemy.
And the Brood Queen just chomps him. Chomp. Chompy and the girls. And he goes right in there.
Yeah.
And, now it's nighttime.
Sweating again.
Yeah, it's nighttime. Dream's over. He's still sweating. And Pierce and Lady Deathstrike are there. All the Reavers are behind him. Lady Deathstrike's holding a tray with some steaks. Like wooden steaks, not not ribeyes. You know?
Cooked you a nice dinner.
And
what
Pierce,
choice, Wolverine? Do you want the loaded mashed potatoes or?
And why? It looks like they're made of wood. No.
Yeah, sure are.
Like when you use like railroad spikes or some heavy metal to get through. Because how are you putting stuff through Wolverine? You know?
I don't know. You'd have to go around the bones.
Yeah.
Which seems hard and not very load bearing.
So basically they crucify him to the X, and Jubilee sees this. Yeah. And I like the way this is told. She's peeking around the corner, so you see them about to do it, and then we just get 4 panels of Jubilee, and each panel gets closer and closer to her eye, and she's like, no, oh no, 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 real big, and then a tear coming down her eye in the final panel. And Wolverine got crucified there. And Pierce is like...
Just because I've been watching so many Terrifier movies lately, but this doesn't seem that horrible. Especially for a guy.
Well, yes. This is 1989, and people's minds haven't been corrupted by Terrifier. So, yeah. This is a pretty big deal. And but Pierce is like, scream, curse you. Why won't you scream? What will it take to make you scream? And then one of the Reavers comes up and he says, hey, boss. He's like, what? Sorry to intrude, but the weather's deteriorating in a major way. Never scanned a storm like this. You scan everything. You can't scan Jubilee, but you can scan.
Yep. Very selective in their scanning abilities.
So I like Pierce is like, all right, game called on account of rain. I guess we'll just leave them here.
But before I go, watch this. You made cracks in my team earlier, but I got your Siege Perilous. I'm just gonna break it. And he just cracks the little brooch.
Yeah, crushes it to powder. He's like, yeah, your buddies escaped through this, but you won't. Boom, smashes it. And now Wolverine starts having another dream, and he's talking to Storm, and it's good looking lady Storm. But then as they talk, she just not on this page. But the next time they show her, she's like a young girl Storm. And first he sees Jean Grey and her Dark Phoenix, and then he sees his Japanese lady. What was her name again?
Mariko Yoshida.
Yeah. And then he sees Carol Danvers, and they're all trying to talk to him. And
they're trying to be like, you can do this. Come on, you're a good dude.
Yeah, and he's just wondering if, it might not be, might be done, It might just be done. All right, so then he sees a young Storm and a big lightning bolt cracks, and here comes the rain, and it starts raining. Mm-hmm. Then we look inside the saloon, and they're all playing cards, and Pretty Boy's trying to hit on Lady Deathstrike, which seems like a questionable choice.
Yeah. He's not going to be Pretty Boy for long if he keeps that up.
And I don't know. Pierce is like threatening one of the Reavers.
Yeah, there's like a news broadcast on the radio about like storms are popping up everywhere, like unseasonable gales from across the globe, which they're definitely, and I think the focus of them is Cairo, Illinois. So they're really hinting at what's coming with Storm. But I mean, I don't know why she's that powerful now that she can cause storms all over the world at once. Like, I don't feel like she's ever been that powerful.
Yeah. So now we see Wolverine out in the rain, and we see Jubilee, and Jubilee doesn't know who he is. She knows he's an X-Men, but she's never met him, So
yeah, this will be the first time meeting.
She's trying to figure out what to do. She's scared there, not sure. And Wolverine starts howling like his berserker rage, and he just rips his arm right off the cross. Just bang.
Yeah.
Pulls it right off.
But can't stop me.
And then he yanks the left arm off. Now, this is some great art here by Silvestri. And then he goes down and he uses both hands to pry off his one leg here. And but again, where are those the metal? Like he's got two spikes through his ankle, one in his ankle and one in his foot. But you're not going through bone, so that's really hard to. I don't know.
Yeah, you must be going to the edges, and that's not going to hold.
And on the tray earlier, she only had 4 spikes. So.
Yeah, maybe somebody had another tray.
Yeah.
We got all
go
night.
To crucifixion with just 4 spikes.
Yeah, let's choose one.
And so he's howling, and thunders.
Yeah, Jubilee's like, what is he? Some kind of animal?
But she's like,
real. Oh.
Yeah, she doesn't know what to do. She's, geez, Louise, he's free. I gotta, what? Look out for number 1. That's the smart survivor's play, but he's hurt. And you don't want to end up the same way. He needs help. What's he do? Yeah. What's he to you? If those guys get their hands on him again, if they get their hands on me, then Wolverine looks up and says, so kid, he saw me. He knows I'm here. You going to give the fella a hand or what? To be
Wolverine's better scanning than the Reavers, apparently. He just uses his eyes and sees that she's right there.
So there you go. That's Wolverine there, crucified. It was a pretty good book. I like that. I like the structure of it, the fever dream, and it catches you up on everything that's going on with the X-Men. It tells you. Now, again, that's the only time, like that scene of them going through the Siege Perilous, that wasn't shown out. Like this isn't wasn't shown where else, right?
I think the last issue just ends with them kind of coming, or maybe in the Savage Land. I don't even know if it shows them coming home, honestly. So the whole Wolverine showing up, this is all a mystery. So this one really does throw you into it and then slowly kind of goes back and shows you what happened. So
yeah, it's a really great structure, so good on them for that.
Yeah.
The dialogue was
finally introduced Jubilee into the story proper, where she's gonna, be friends with Wolverine. That's kind of a partnership that goes on for a long time. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I liked all aspects of the fever dream and everything, all the different characters they brought in.
Kind of catches you up on Wolverine and, the people that are important in his life, the good guys and the bad guys.
Again, I thought Jubilee's stuff was always very weak, her monologue. And again, I'm always addressing each other by their names is a pain in the ass. But,
yes. That's fair.
But overall, I mean, it's a very solid issue. Silvestri's art here is pretty good. I think later on in his run, it's probably because they're going twice a month. He did get a little looser, I think.
Sure.
But it's still very good. So.
Yeah, I remember his stuff around the Brood era. Remember when the Brood came to Earth? That was
another classic iconic cover of Wolverine turning into a Brood there. And that was also in purples and stuff too. Yeah. So, anything else about this issue we should point out? I think we talked about it. Oh, so let's talk about what happens next, because Wolverine and Jubilee escape, and the Reavers believe they went to Muir Island.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the Reavers show up on Muir Island looking for them. And do you recall what happens there? Because kind of something significant, I think, right?
Yeah. There was kind of a weird collaboration of mutants all coming together there in Muir Island at the time. Banshee was there because he's dating Moira McTaggart. I think Forge is kind of starting to look for the X-Men, so he shows up. Polaris shows up after her recent Savage Land thing, but now her powers are different. There's a whole bunch of just random people, like Amanda Sefton, I think Nightcrawler's girlfriend, Danger. She shows up. And they're all kind of hanging out on Muir Island, and then Freedom Force somehow gets involved. And at some point during that, Legion just he waits around, and he's kind of I think Moira McTaggart's been kind of trying to help him get his mind together, but it hasn't been going great. And one of his personalities is in control, and he just up and murders Destiny.
Destiny from the old lady who could see things, right?
Who could see the future. So she knew it was coming, and she let it happen anyway.
Yeah, she always wore the gold mask, right? And she was what's her face's right hand lady,
Mystique, they were lovers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But wasn't Destiny like 70 years old?
Yeah, Mystique apparently is too. She just keeps shapeshifting herself to look younger.
Oh,
like her
okay.
cells keep changing themselves, so she doesn't really age.
Did not know that. All right. I always thought it was more like an aunt-niece situation, like the older guardian kind of thing, but all right.
No, apparently, I think they didn't make it as explicit as maybe they wanted to back then because it was more taboo, but they definitely got into that later on. It's like, oh yeah. So Mystique did not handle it well when this happened. She had to head on for Legion after that.
Yeah, the Freedom Force were the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and then they joined the government and whatever. So
government's just there. Wow.
Yeah.
It was cool.
So yeah, and then I guess they defeat the Reavers there on Muir Island, and
yeah, the Reavers became like they're kind of a recurring threat for the next probably 20 issues or so. But the story goes all over the place because now the X-Men are so separated that you're kind of like it'll pick up on one storyline here, and then you won't see that person again for a bunch of issues, and you just kind of go, okay, when is all this going to come back together? And it takes a while. It's probably a good year and a half.
Oh, how about that? Long-term storytelling. I like it.
Good.
All right, so yeah, there's nothing really too much to complain about here. It's again, the structure was great, the cover's spectacular, the art's strong. So I don't know, I'll probably get 9 out of 10. Just
knocking a couple points off for Jubilee's monologue.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's not a 10 out of 10 book, but it's 9 out of 10.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. It's the cover that really bumps it up there.
Yeah, that makes it iconic.
Do you also think 9?
I'm going to go 9 as well. I can't argue with that.
Uncanny X-Men 251. It's pretty solid. Might want to check it out.
New Chris run. Pretty good.
Yeah, give where do you rank the whole Australian era of the X-Men? Like, do you consider it
it's one of those, I don't know. It's hard to say because it's like, it definitely wasn't my era. It was definitely something I read about later on and then started reading the issues and it was all out of order for me. But I like that they did it. I appreciate it in retrospect, like that it was just so different, I guess. Like it was not the usual thing. Like Chris Claremont did try to shake things up. I don't know that it totally made sense, their reasoning for, pretending to be dead and not even telling like their friends, like, the New Mutants or whatever, like the kids that they were taking care of, and they're like, we'll leave them with Magneto. That's fine. That'll work out well.
He won't warp their minds or anything. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because I think my favorite era is when I started reading the X-Men. So, like, right around the Mutant Massacre, back to, like, 180s. Or, probably 170 when Wolverine went to Japan and all that stuff. Up until like about 220 was what I really like a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so that's the Uncanny X-Men. Next week here on the big show, I had some issues trying to pick a book to read.
Yes, quite the odyssey.
There's doing the weekly fake radio show is very hard, especially when you pre-record it and you forget what day it is. And you take a nap, you have no idea where you are when you wake up. And because we always have to have like an issue in the holster ready to go, for the next thing. And I did not. Jank's got like a book full of issues just at the ready. You can just riffle and point. And I was struggling in this post-Shocktober era. I just wanted to go right to a horror book again. But no, we're not going to do that. So we're going to stay in 1989, and when I do take my naps, I like to listen to a lot of audio books, or lately it's been Marvel audio dramas. And one of the ones I had on the other day was She-Hulk. So we're going to go Sensational She-Hulk issue 1 from 1989. This is the John Byrne reboot. And
number 1.
Yeah, she fights. We're going to issue 1 here because she fights the Circus of Crime and the Ringmaster. Yeah. We've never discussed them at all on the show, so that'll be something exciting.
for who the other members of that are. The Clown, I think.
Well, I don't know.
Princess
Yes, I think she's in there. I just flipped through it real quick. I think I did see her. But, yeah, this reboot here of She-Hulk, it was kind of irreverent, and, I seem to recall her breaking the fourth wall sometimes, right?
Yeah, definitely a part of it. They would have like crazy colors here and there, just like, like her breaking the fourth wall, or like, I think there was one where she was like skipping rope naked or something, like.
But this brought She-Hulk back into like prominence, you know? Like she was on the Avengers there for a while, but she was always a background thing, but this kind of made her a thing again.
I don't feel like.
Yeah.
I think wasn't she there for like that really terrible team where it was like it was her and Dr. Druid?
Yes,
and
she was there with Dr.
and,
Druid. She definitely was. It's
like
funny that you bring up Dr. Druid, because when I was trying to figure out what issue I was going to pick this week, I was reading some summaries of various issues, because I almost picked an issue with Loki, because we've never actually done a Loki issue.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think we have. Like, Loki's one of the biggest villains ever, and I don't think we've ever done a Loki.
Huh.
So
that is mind-boggling.
So I think I was reading a summary for one of his Avengers appearances or something, and there's some people like who did reviews of it underneath, and they were giving their comments. And one guy pointed out that there was a survey of people's favorite Avengers, and he said, "Who are the 7 people who voted for Dr. Druid? Because I need to speak to them." 7 people. Dr. Druid as their favorite Avenger.
Yeah, I don't know who those people are. There's a handful of people who are just like, Death Cry? No one's picking Death Cry.
I don't even know who that is. Death Cry.
Like some weird Shi'ar lady.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for this big show. Next week, Sensational She-Hulk. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We appreciate the support. So until then, don't get any jank on you.